back. You're watching Startup Central with me, Nayanthara Rai. This is the only show of its kind on Indian television dedicated to startups, technology, innovation, disruption. Basically, if it has anything to do with the new economy, it's here every weekday, 6 to 7 p.m. Ladies and gentlemen, stay in touch with us. Our email address right on top, suc@etnow.tv. Tell us what you like about the show. We love constructive feedback, so you can also tell us how we can improve the show, what you don't like about it. I'm also on Twitter. Reach out to me directly. Pitch to us. Who knows, maybe one day you'll even be a part of the show. Before the commercial break, we were in conversation with Unacademy's co-founder, Gaurav Munjal. You know, a valuation of $500 million convinced Facebook to make its second investment in the country. And guess who else is an existing investor of Unacademy? It is Blume. And like we promised you, it's time now to be in conversation with the big boss at Blume Ventures. It has closed its third fund. Sanjay Nath joining us here on Startup Central. Hi, Sanjay. Good to see you. We just had Unacademy on air before you, but you got big news of your own. Take us through it.
So, we are pleased to announce the closing of our Blume 3, that's our third fund. And we also have another optionary fund that's associated with that. This is our third fund. If you'll recall, the first fund that we had was more like a micro VC, which was about 15 million in 2012. The second one was about 60 million in 2016, and this one we've just closed at about 2020. We're still going to continue our early stage focus, but we're excited because we're finding that founders want to raise larger rounds. We're just seeing a lot of 2x and seasoned founders out there. The larger funds also have capital, and the next decade promises to be even more exciting. So, we knew we needed to raise a larger fund, and happy to announce the closing of that.
So how big is it though? Can you share that with us?
So, the core fund, the Blume 3 itself is 102 million. You've heard that, you've heard this word hard cap, right? Very often funds go to raise a certain amount, and they hit that, and sometimes they get oversubscribed. So we got permission, and we actually closed at 102 million. There is a separate fund which is in our parlance called an opportunity fund, which is about just north of 40 million. So that's about 41 million. So if you look at, they are distinct and separate funds, but if you look at it, that is just a little short of about 145 or 150 million. The new fund is called Blume 3, and the opportunity fund is called 2A.
One second, Blume is an early stage investor. So what is this trend that you're talking about of companies wanting to raise large sum, at an early stage? Shouldn't they be proving themselves before saying, show me the money? What is this trend all about?
A couple of things, Nayanthara, that happened. I mean, think about it. We've started, this will be our 9th year since starting Blume. If you look at how much the ecosystem has matured, both the investors on one side, there's so much domestic capital, in India now, and the founders on the other side have organized themselves very well. So if you look at when we started, look at the evolution, we would say at that time, 500,000 was the new 5 million. Our fund one checks typically at that time were about 1 or 2 crores, and the average round size was about 3 crores, right? About 500,000. If you look at the evolution today, the new founders that are coming out, thanks to Flipkart, thanks to a lot of scale, thanks to a lot of unicorns being built, both on the consumer and the B2B side, founders today are happily more ambitious. They want to build. For a much bigger, massive game, for a massive outcome. They also care deeply about what they're building, and they almost want to go global from day one. Then if you look at the capital side, not only do the other early stage VCs have more capital, but you're also seeing foreign entrants, right? Who are earlier coming in more in growth and late stage capital, are also coming into Series B rounds. So, we've always known that we'd have to have more capital. But the biggest driver, Nayanthara, is actually our founders themselves. Founders have always said that, we want Blume to be at the table. You come in early, you know us the best, seed is in your DNA, but they value our advice and the platform that we've built. I don't know how much your viewers know, but Blume has a sister entity called Constellation, which actually helps our companies with hiring. This lady called Sanam that leads that is 11 people strong. We have the core shared services platform called Constellation that is more than 35 people. So what our founders are saying is that, hey, even in Series A, Series B, even beyond, we actually want you to have a seat at the table. So, which is why you need a larger fund, right? You'll do, you might do fewer companies, but you'll stay in those winners and those companies, you'll stay invested much longer.
Okay, so that's the trend as far as why the startups are asking what they're asking, which is for larger ticket investments. But now tell me this, Sanjay. You've raised all of this capital. You've got this fund. I'm going to ask the question on behalf of all the startups and founders tuning in at the moment, and that's what they want to know. What impresses Blume Ventures? What's hot according to Blume at the moment? What are the sectors you're looking at? What are the kind of companies and startups you're looking at?
You know, we always like to say that it is for the startup entrepreneurs to create those white spaces and niches and find our investors, and you know, it's not our job to you know, tell them what startups to start. Having said that, I'll say that if you look at the evolution, typically consumer 5 to 10 years ago was very restricted to horizontal or vertical e-commerce and payments. On the B2B side, it was only enterprise, you know, SaaS and software. And I'll tell you how that's evolved. We are seeing new segments like, let's say, like agri-tech, you know, agri-tech, fintech meets rural India. So the India, what you know, what we call India 2.0 and India 3.0. We're seeing a meshing of that where fintech, health tech, edutech can be applied in a sense to the masses, right, to the rest of India. Vernacular content, very interesting. On the B2B side, interesting shift has been beyond just enterprise software to also include deep tech. And that's also, again, you know, the availability of talent. You have today AI, deep learning, data science, engineers and senior leaders that were not there available earlier. So today you're seeing interesting innovation in robotics, in space tech, in drones, in you know, in IoT, even in life sciences, in core material sciences, which we were not seeing about 5 years ago. And I will say, Nayantara, that we're finding that the entrepreneurs of today, they really care deeply about the problems that they're solving. In the sense, they obviously want to go after a very large market and, you know, build very large businesses. But for example, let's say you know, controlling pollution levels or clean energy or carbon footprints. I mean, we have a company called Carbon Clean Solutions that we backed 9 years ago that has a you know, that makes a carbon solvent that reduces carbon footprints around the world. And I think a final point I'll add is we're also seeing an increase in the number of women entrepreneurs that are coming out, and that's also very positive. So it really points to how strong our ecosystem is, and it's becoming even stronger.
Sanjay, I'm just going to pick up from what you said. And when I ask you this question, I'm not asking you because I'm a woman or because International Women's Day is coming up. Every day should be Women's Day. But just from what you said, would it imply that maybe Blume is biased towards those startups that may have women founders?
You know, I mean, it's an interesting question. We get that a lot. I don't think it's so much about bias versus having a better and a well-rounded team that captures different perspectives, right? I'll give you an example. I mean, let's say, you know, we saw a company that is looking at women's hygiene, you know, coming up with, you know, let's say, you know, organic friendly sanitary pads, or let's say something that affects women, or could be, you know, could be just a general problem. I think the fact that you have diverse thinking is actually strengthening and complementing the team. So we don't like diversity for the sake of, but the fact is diversity can occur in so many different ways, right? I mean, it could be orientation, it could be gender, it could be, I'll give you a great example of just engineers versus liberal arts. I mean, for the longest time, you know, both our founders, Karthik and I, are both engineers from BITS and IIT respectively. I think we need diversity of all kinds because problems that are going to be solved need different approaches, not more of the same. So I think it's very welcome.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. No diversity for the sake of it. And of course, that's, beats the whole purpose of feminism. It's all about merit, isn't it? Now, your game, every venture capitalist game is to find the next big thing, is to find the next big unicorn, is to strike gold. And that is supposed to offset a lot of startups that go bust. Every startup is, of course, not an investment. How do you balance all of this? Which are the unicorns that you have in your portfolio? Which are the ones that you think are going to become unicorns? What's the portfolio looking like?
Yeah, striking gold is all relative, and we don't actually believe that we have struck gold because there's a long way to go. But I think, I'll just share, I'll recap what the public knowledge is. We had 3 exits from our first fund. Ola acquired a taxi for sure. We had great founders, Raghu and Aprameya, and they were one of the first sort of stories that started even before Ola. Then we had Twitter's first acquisition in India, which is a company called ZipDial that was started by Valerie, who was an American founder who had made a home in Bangalore. This was around a platform around missed calls and mobile messaging. And then we had a company in the LED renewable space called Promtech that was acquired by, majority owned by Havells. So those were 3 notable exits. And then we've had Valley companies acquiring. We had Nutanix acquired our company called Botmetric that was in the space of cloud computing. But we're also very excited about the companies we're building. So you may have heard many of these names. Unacademy has become a leader in edtech, small cases in fintech. You've got Turtleman in insurtech, and on the B2B side, we've got Grey Orange, of course, that's become a leader in the world of automated warehousing. So I think to answer your question, I think the pot of gold is at the end, and this year and the next couple of years are going to be really critical, where we put our firepower and really get our companies to the next stage, get them to unicorn status and really build scale and create impact.
Have you heard of Unacademy, where we had Gaurav Munjal, the co-founder, on the show before we had you, Sanjay? And of course, congratulations on that one as well. And a good bet it's certainly turning out to be. Valuation topping $500 million. Facebook making its second ever investment. Speaking of unicorns, things can unravel really fast as well, right? Look at Hike. Look what happened to Hike. These days, look at Quicker. Quicker is in the news these days. One investor marking down more than 50%. So things can really unravel. And the thing is that we don't hear all the stakeholders ever talking about these issues.
Yeah, see, I think, especially in for a consumer startup, Nayantara, the focus always is that to grab market share and to grab users. But down the line and very quickly, I think there are 2 things, right? We've got to see where, what are the users going to come back for, why they're going to stay on your platforms, and how much they're going to pay. And then, if there's another competitor with a better mousetrap, are they going to switch? B2B has the advantage that it's less capital efficient, you're not burning as much cash, and then the switching costs are high. But then once an enterprise starts up with let's look at Zoom, right? I'm sure you use it, we use it a lot. Once you're on it, you just take it as a default, right? It becomes a verb. You say let's just Zoom, right? Like Google. So I think on the consumer side, you bring up an interesting point, and I think that's what founders have to realize, that don't get lost in how much capital you've raised, but go deeper with customers and really provide something of value to them, and then scale that. You've got to demonstrate the value and then scale, versus skimming the surface, using your war chest to buy customer acquisition, and then exactly like you say, the problems you have. So yeah, the problems are being talked about, but I think they will come up even more and more. It's a good thing, So I think this year and decade, Nayantara, will all be about growth with sustainability, right? I think that's also, we have a responsibility as investors and as founders to really grow sustainable businesses, not just fundraisers with a path to nowhere.
Okay, so a good shake-up, I guess, is always needed, but I think objectively and as an outsider, I still think we need to talk more about the valuations that are sometimes bumped up and aren't what they seem to be. Having said that, Sanjay, now I want to ask you this again on behalf of all the founders and startups tuning in. What gets Blume to invest? You told us the sectors that you like, but what is it that you look in a startup? What's your do's and don't list?
Yeah, the core framework really doesn't change, right? Regardless of the size of the fund, but there are a couple of the weightage changes. So I'll just give you the the 3 or 4 key parameters or the levers, the team is the most important, especially today, right? If you look at a large area like a food tech or delivery, we want to see signs of teams that have worked together, that are complementary. Again, we had talked about diversity earlier, so the team is very important. The second is obviously a very large market. The larger the fund size, the market size becomes even more important, because you want to go for larger outcomes. You want to actually back founders who really want to create something big. So I think that's the second, the market size. And then the third is really a differentiated product. How unique is the solution? Not how great it is, but how differentiated it is, and what will keep either enterprise or a consumer just coming back. Everything else is actually a function of this. I will also say that founder maturity is very important. Do they know what they don't know? Are they willing to be open and learn? Are they willing to hire? Are they willing to sort of delegate and give control? That's very important. They have to learn to manage stakeholders, different stakeholders, deal with bad news. So I think that emotional maturity of a founder is very, very important, because this is a very long-term game, right? I mean, you're talking about 10 or 15 years from the time you start till you get an exit or till you scale. So I think emotional maturity of the founding team and their openness is very important.
Sanjay, before I let you go, we've talked about boom and bust and all of that, and you've got, of course, a fantastic portfolio. But let's talk about the anti-portfolio. What is Blume and Sanjay Nath's oh damn moment? And I'm sure there are lots of them. I want to know if you'll be candid with us. Opportunities that you must have missed, you must have passed on, and now that you look back, you're like, oh my God, if only we had put money in at that time.
Yeah, I mean, in our business, it's called anti-portfolio. I know that we are very proud of our current portfolio, but I know that we had I think we had looked at Swiggy when they were in a different avatar. We had looked at Oyo when they were different in different avatar. We've got a brand that pulls founders to us. But never say never, right? I mean, there's always I like to say in our line, there's always, you miss a bus, there's always another bus coming, and there's gold to be struck right across. India is not a market of just few and far between. Last year Thai Delhi, I like the credo. We talked about creating 100 unicorns over the next decade. So we have a problem of plenty. We have to just hunker down, focus, and make sure we deliver. So they're always great companies, and they're all friends. And sometimes we get them, and sometimes we don't. But it's all part of the game.
Okay, it's good to see that you're not beaten down by it, and you've been so candid with us about the anti-portfolio. But Sanjay Nath, we're out of time. I'd like to wish the entire Blume Ventures team all the very best from Team Startup Central. Thanks for the interview. We look forward to many more in the days to come. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we're completely out of time. So I'm going to wrap up this edition of Startup Central. I do hope you enjoyed today's episode. We'll be back same time tomorrow.